Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome onto my channel today, and it gives me great joy to observe you are viewing this video. I'm Professor Olayinka Akanle. I am a lecturer in the university. On this channel, I do a number of stuff, but all the stuffs I do, you can easily cluster them into four, and sociology and research are central to them. The rest, relationship and migration. Meanwhile, if you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly go ahead and click subscribe on your screen right now to join my family of subscribers. Click subscribe on your screen right now. The title of today's video is on Max Weber. Max Weber was a German sociologist. So Max Weber is the right pronunciation, in German. But some English, people who speak English actually sometimes call it Max Weber, or even American Max Weber. But the right pronunciation is Max Weber in German. He was a German sociologist who made profound contributions to sociology. Born in 1864 and died in 1920. So he reigned between 19th century and 20th century, 1864 to 1920. And he made, so essentially Max Weber can be considered as an ideal sociologist in the sense that he gave schema, models for ideal of how society should function. Don't forget, this is still part of the series on founding fathers of sociology or contributors to sociology. This is the third one. I've dropped video on Ibn Khaldun. I dropped video on August Comte. So this is Max Weber. And he made some profound contributions to sociology. And I want to, in this video now, I just told you a little bit about his history as a German sociologist who reigned in the 19th to 20th century, 1864 to 1920. So then I will tell you about his major contributions to sociology so you can understand. But don't forget, I've told you in previous videos that these founding fathers actually contributed towards giving sociology the subject matter, the name, and the forms. So view the video on Ibn Khaldun and view the video on Auguste Comte, who gives sociology its name then. So Max Weber, for me, is a very phenomenal sociologist, and a lot of the things that we study today can be better, also considered as a more modern sociologist compared to Comte, or even to, even Khaldun. So Comte, a major contribution of Comte then given the sociology's name, Khaldun, writing in Arabic. So, but the major contribution of Max Weber can be categorized under his social action theory, given the ideal types. That even though in reality we may not be able to match the ideal, sociologists will aspire to achieve the ideal and to contribute scientifically in the area of the ideal. So Max Weber gave theory, social action theory, also give us methodology. They need to apply our methodology and our theories to real life situations. And I will show you later how he did it. So when you look at his ideal types and you look at his contribution in terms of social action theory, you look at the contribution in terms of bureaucracy, you look at his contribution in terms of emergence or development of capitalism, you look at his contribution in terms of power and authority, you look at his contribution in terms of applying methodology, look at his contribution in terms of social class or class, multidimensional class. So you will understand what I'm saying in the sense that let's start from social action theory. For he believed that the way to understand human action is to look at it from the subjective perspective. Subjective perspective in the sense that to understand the motive, to understand the motivation of action. And now this subjective understanding, subjective intentions of the actors inform the action and the reaction of others. This is profound. That is, for sociology to be able to understand human action, don't forget sociology is interested in social order and human behavior in terms of their action in group. So for Max Weber, that subjective understanding of human action is very important. That is, look at it from the perspective of the actor. Wow. This is not necessarily important for us to say we want to be objective. I want to look at it from the objective perspective, but we should look at it from the angle of the meanings actors attached to their actions. And this is the only way we can be able to understand. This is the reason for the action, the causes of the action, and consequences of the action, and the impact on the reactions of others to the extent that it forms a social action. So the subjective interpretation is very important for us to be able to understand human action. And to be able to do this, Max Weber looked at the types of action in terms of the idea, looking at the, look at action in terms of traditional action, affective action, and legal rational action. And he subdivided the legal rational action to value rational and goal rational action. And why is this important? This takes us to another contribution of Max Weber. Another contribution of Max Weber in the sense that looking at, he believed in the rationalization of action. He believed that human beings are rational actors. That human beings don't just act randomly. Fantastic. That means there's something like accidental action or slip of tongue, like people want to say, or it's a mistake. Max Weber does not believe there's a mistake in human action. Max Weber believes people act rationally, and there's a reason for their action. There's value they attach to their action. That is, for human beings to act, there's a reason. And this action can be categorized. That is, for us to be able to understand why people act the way they act, consequences of their action. Meanwhile, because of this subjective interpretation in terms of social action, Max Weber defines sociology as a science that engage in interpretative understanding of human action, so as to be able to understand the action and predict the cause of the action and the consequences of the action. Max Weber's definition of sociology is one of the most profound that I like the most. That is, it's a science that attempts to understand human action through subjective interpretation, so that to be able to understand the cause of action and consequences of action. Profound. That is so, as much as we try to be maybe scientific, as we try as much as possible to be objective, removing value from sociological analysis, Max Weber still believes there's a need for us to engage in subjective understanding. And he believes that when you categorize action in terms of traditional action, these are actions that are based on customs and norms of that society. Traditions. These traditions inform action. Then looking at the issue of affective action, these are actions that are based on people's feelings, people's emotion. Love, for example. Traditional action, for example, when people act in terms of their tradition, for example, prostrating for the king in Africa, or shaking hands with the president and calling the president by name, in the United States. So these are tradition action, based on traditional beliefs of people and customs. Affective action people have because of their emotion and affection. Then the legal rational, when people act because of a reason to achieve a particular goal. And this is further subdivided into two. Looking at, value rational action that people have to achieve based on the value that they hold dear in high esteem. And goal rational that people act in a way rationally, systematically, intentionally to achieve a particular goal. People read, you are viewing this video probably because you want to understand Max Weber so that you can pass exam, or so that you can be able to use appropriate. Meanwhile, there's a video on this channel on social action theory of Max Weber. View that video. Or you want to pass, you want to get A in your A levels, or in your BSc, or you're in your master's, you don't understand Max Weber, you want to understand so that you can pass. That is a goal rational. And you think the best rational action to take is to read and view this video. This is very important. And rationalization is another contribution. That is, society have been increasingly rational. And they are rationalizing their action, putting structures in places, bureaucracy in places, so that there can be more efficiency, there can be more effectiveness, there can be more objectivity and systematic approaches in production processes or in organization of human society. Believing that human beings are rational and their actions and activities must be rationalized so that there can be increasing efficiency. There will be rolling back of traditional beliefs that tends to make people to act irrationally. There is a need for more rationalization so that to increase efficiency and advancement in society. Another contribution along with this is bureaucracy, which is the rational organization. Don't forget the fact that I've mentioned before that these founding fathers and contributors actually, contributed at a time that there is huge disorganization and social disorder. When you look at it from the angle, I hope you remember this in the previous videos, that is, this sociology emerged during chaos in Europe, Industrial Revolution and French Revolution. And there's a need to organize society, to better understand society, so there can be better organization of society. And this is at the point that Max Weber suggested bureaucracy, a hierarchical structure of work, a hierarchical structure of society, a hierarchical structure of organization, so that authority flows from the top, and there is rational, there is formalization, and informal work processes or relationships should be rolled back, and rational, formal, hierarchical organization should be instituted, so that there is organization, there is structure in how people organize their work. So this is very important for Weber. Efficiency and predictability can only be achieved through bureaucracy. But unfortunately now, people are beginning to argue that bureaucracy was only relevant during Weberian intervention. People are talking about horizontal organization and structure now. People are talking about some other structureless organization process, especially with the age of AI and virtual work. So, but bureaucracy was recommended by Weber. Then you also have to know about what we call the Protestant ethics and the spirit of capitalism. This is a major work done by Weber. This is when Weber studied the Protestant beliefs, religious beliefs of the Protestants, to look at emergence of capitalism and the ascetic way of life, prudent way of life. And according to Max Weber, he was trying to explain the origin, the development, and emergence of capitalism. And he tries to trace the emergence of capitalism to the Protestant ethics. And he conducted research massively. That's why, for me, Weber was one of the founding fathers who did extensive research. I consider him as a major positivist. Though he didn't write a lot about positivism, unlike Comte and some other founding fathers like Durkheim, that I will drop a video on later on. So you will find that Weber did extensive research, gathered data across different countries. Though he was a German, he did extensive research, and he did a lot of research on capitalism. And that's when he tried to link Protestant ethics to capitalism in terms of emergence. So that's a Protestant ethics and the spirit of capitalism is a major work that Weber did, and we must give credit to him in that area. Weber also did a lot in terms of power and authority. I must mention that Weber actually engaged so much in conversation with Karl Marx. A lot of the works of Weber, they were in direct conversation with the works of Karl Marx. I will drop a video on Karl Marx later on. Weber actually believed that power and authority are different. Power is the ability to make others behave in certain ways the powerful wants the subject to behave. Unlike authority that is based on legitimacy, power is crude, power is raw. Power with legitimacy gives us authority. And Weber believed that authority is better than raw power, because this is the only way human action can be meaningful. Don't forget, subjective interpretation of human action. So Weber did a lot in terms of power and authority. And according to Weber, authority is better than power, because power is subjugating. But authority actually makes people to behave in a way that they get power with legitimacy to give authority. And according to Weber, people can have different types, people can have authority through different meanings. Authority is popular power. It's power that is popular among the people. Authority is acceptable power. Raw power brings totalitarianism, absolutism, autocracy. But for Weber, He believes that authority is better, and for people to have authority, there is what he call charismatic authority, and he believed that there is also traditional authority, and there is also legal rational authority. And Weber is very scientific. Weber was very scientific, was very empirical. He gathered data to achieve all of this. And if you look at the way Weber went about this, to be able to show, unlike Karl Marx, that believed that people get their power, get their position in society based on their economic power, ownership of most of production. Look forward to that video on Karl Marx. It will be explosive. But Weber believed that authority does not, power and authority they don't come only from economic ownership. That people, authority can come from charisma, can come from tradition, and can come from legal rational authority. People can get authority based on rationality, on legality. For example, somebody can win an election and constitutionally he becomes the leader. So that is legal. Somebody can also emerge a leader by being charismatic. Somebody can become a leader with authority by tradition. For example, in monarchy, people become a king because it's hereditary. So this is very important for Weber and for us. And a methodological praxis that Weber gave to us was even the issue of verstehen. Verstehen means understanding the subjective meaning that people attach to their action. Subjective meaning means understanding the meaning of action from the perspective of the actor. Put yourself in the shoe of the actor, according to Weber. And when you put yourself in the shoes of the actor, in the position of the actor, you are able to better understand the cause and consequences and reason for that action. So subjective meanings of the actors is very important because that's where you can understand the motivation, understand the reason, understand the meanings attached. Don't forget, in understanding Weber, the concept of verstehen and subjective understanding is very important. Verstehen is a German word for understanding. I think it's a German word. Understanding or subjective understanding. And Weber wrote on class that people belong to classes not only because of their economy, but also because of some other, unlike Karl Marx, who believed that ownership of means of production, economic determinism, is the only reason people occupy class. And there's only upper class and lower class, two classes. If you own means of production, you are in the upper class. You don't own, you are in the lower class. Weber believed that you can have upper, middle, lower. People can it's not just two. People can be in 3 different classes or 4 different classes or 5 different classes. People can be in different classes based on different values they possess. People, based on, we call this multi-dimensional class. That is, you may not have money, you may have talent. You may not have talent, you may have traditional authority like a king. You may not be rich, but you may be a king. So while you are occupying high class, you may not be rich, you may be a professor. A professor may be seen to be somebody in higher class. Unlike Karl Marx, that believe that it doesn't matter who you are. Once you don't have the means of production, you are poor. So this multidimensional, analysis of class makes Weberian analysis very profound, unlike Karl Marx. So, and this is, this multidimensional class analysis is very unique because I agree with that, unlike Karl Marx, who believe you either have means of production and you are in upper class, or you don't have means of production, you are in lower class. I don't tend to agree with that because you may not have means of production, you may be very educated, you may be talented, you may be a content creator, and you have 100 million followers. People will begin to, especially in the social media age, you become influential. There are even some rich people who are not known. So multidimensional class analysis means people can occupy different classes, high, lower, upper, lower, middle, because of different things. Charisma, tradition, legal rational reasons, talent and some other reasons, depending on the society in question. And he also contributed a lot to urban sociology, looking at the city, studying behavior of urban people. And this is very important at the level of the world increasingly urbanized. Because with the Industrial Revolution and French Revolution, people moved massively from rural areas to urban centers in search of work, in search of power, in search of authority, in search of influence, in search of quality of life, compared to what happened before the Industrial Revolution or French Revolution, where societies were essentially rural. So he did a lot to understand human behavior across different spaces. And he did a lot in terms of methodology, and in terms of theory of social action. I've told the verstehen, and they need to understand meaning as a methodology in all that we do. He also talked about structure of society and organization in terms of bureaucracy, issue of social change, rationalization, and in terms of politics and power. So this, if you look at these elements I've given, you are able to understand Weber more as synthesized here. Welcome to Max Weber. Till I see you in my next video, please subscribe and bye for now.